When I did one cast this morning, I had mentioned that I was going to come out and test something I did yesterday. Last evening, or really middle of the afternoon yesterday, I came up here and I wanted to actually catch 4 fish to keep. And so I brought my fly rod and I was over in the shallow water fishing a zebra midge. And I noticed, out here in the 2 to 3 foot of water, a lot of fish that were kind of cruising around that I could see. And I noticed there was a lot of leaves on the bottom, and I thought, and Dwayne had fished the night before, a couple of nights before, up below the dam, and said that he saw a lot of scuds along the banks. And it got me thinking about, there should be a lot of scuds down in this area. No reason why there wouldn't be. So, put on a Scud, like I have on now. I've got what they call a rainbow UV gray dubbing 200R hook, number 14, which is really about a number 12 and most other hooks. So it's a pretty good size Scud. 6X fluorocarbon tippet, and I've got it about 4 feet under a small indicator. And as you can see, I'm backed up to the bank over here. I'm probably 2 foot of water what I'm sitting in. And this area below Fall Creek, this flat, it goes out there quite a ways. It's still 3-4 foot of water, more than about halfway across the lake. So now it's a little bit afternoon, midday, sunny sky, not very much wind. This is usually not the time to go fishing here. You can catch fish on bait over there in the channel in the deeper water sometimes. But usually going out and throwing jigs and flies, it's a little bit tough in the middle of the day with these kind of conditions. So when I was out about 3 o'clock yesterday, the sun came out, and I actually did better out in the sunlight than I did in the shade. I was down a little bit further fishing. So I thought I'd come up here and just try it, to see if I can duplicate yesterday's fishing, catching. What I want to do, my Scud, it's weighted. So with the 6X fluorocarbon is going to sink a lot better than monofilament. That's why I'm using fluorocarbon. And with the Scud being weighted, of course, Scud is freshwater shrimp imitation. 4 feet of line and 2 feet or less of water, the Scud is going to be on the bottom. And so when I throw out, I wait just a little bit. I got some fish working right in front of me. I might just try to turn the boat and throw that direction. When I throw out, I'll let it go to the bottom and let it sit there for 10-15 seconds. And then I'll move it 6 inches to a foot. And what that does is it makes that Scud kind of come off the bottom and move. Of course, freshwater shrimp, they do swim. So that's a natural action for them. And what they normally do is they'll get up and swim a little bit, and then they'll get in the rocks. And so those fish kind of keyed in on anything that's kind of coming up off out of the rocks and moving. So when I move it like that, what I'm looking for is that float to either vibrate a little bit if the fish is just picking it up and mouthing it. The float all it'll do is just kind of vibrate a little bit. If he picks it up and moves with it, of course my float's going to move too. Most generally they can be real picky and pick it up and mouth it and spit it out, but for the most part they'll pick it up and hold it in their mouth and move with it, and you'll see the float move and you set the hook. You do need a lot of patience when you're fishing a scud, I find. You can leave it in one place for a long time because most generally these rainbows are moving around, kind of scoping out the area, looking for food. That's what they were doing last night. So even though you might not be getting a bite, you can still leave it there because one might swim up on it. Every time you move it, you could be catching the attention of a fish that's swimming by. I'm in so shallow water, my trolling motor is now sitting on the bottom. See, I've got fish out here midging. So if they're midging, and they're midging in 1.5 to 2 foot of water, there's another one out by my float. They should pick up a scud. I'm using a small carrot float. It's a hard foam float. It's pretty small. This one's shaped like a bullet. It's got 2 colors in it. It's got pink, kind of a hot pink, and white. I'd always like using white because you can see white the best. It's small enough to where I can really see a small bite, but it's big enough that it's not going to be pulled under if they start running water and I fish it, dragging the bottom. The float just moved just a tiny bit. I knew he'd taken it. The fish I caught last night, I caught one small rainbow, and I caught several kind of medium-sized stalkers, but I caught 2 real nice rainbows in the 15-inch range. One thing about these rainbows, they're all fat. They most generally take it just right inside the mouth. So you can just kind of pop it out. I'm using a light color gray scud. This, of course, UV is going to have some shimmer to it in the sun. We use a lot of midges like the P&P when the sun's out. Seems like it works a little bit better than something that doesn't have any UV in it. It's the same thing with the Scuds. I think it kind of shimmers a little bit in the sun, draws a little more attention. This particular dubbing is a rainbow gray, so it's got some reds and some greens and blues in the UV color, and kind of like to use a lighter color scud, dark bottom, or the contrast is a little better. But if it doesn't work, I can always change colors, change sizes. This is a pretty good size scud. This time of year, usually, most of the guides, especially if you're fishing up below the dam, the guides are dropping down to 16s and 18s. You know, I don't know if it's because the fish are smarter or they're less apt to taking a bigger bug for whatever reason, but especially down here where there's a nice rainbow right in front of me, and he's digging down in the gravel. These fish below Fall Creek, for the most part, don't see many scud flies. And so they're not quite as wise as the fish up below the dam, because they see a lot of scud flies up there. Oh, missed him. If there was a little chop on the water, I think it would even be better, but the water surface is pretty glassy right now. There's not much wind at all. It didn't seem to bother the fish too much as far as feeding on these scuds. Like I said, I can see them out in front of me occasionally. They're digging around the rocks trying to get food. But if there's a chop on the water, they'd seems like that's always better condition in catching fish. That's one thing about fishing this is your eyes can't wander. The bite is pretty quick. I get fish over here that are midging. I take my eyes off the float for just a second, and I could get a bite and either not see it or miss it. You might ask, could you fish a scud using a spin cast? Use a fly rod. Oh, you can use a spin cast. You want to use light line, 2-pound line, and maybe even put a 1 pound, or if you're going to go with tippet material, 6X, fluorocarbon. If you want to get really venturesome, tie on 7X. I don't think it's needed. You might get more bites using 7X. It's a little tougher landing the fish using 7X. It's pretty light stuff. But you use a small float and same setup. Set your float 3-4 foot from your fly. You can use a double fly rig if you want. I'm not, no particular reason why, I'm just using the one. You might pick up a little more debris off the bottom, leaves, and those are waves. You might pick up some moss if you drag it in the rocks too much. You might have to clean your fly off all the time. Ooh, nice fish right out in front of me. Gosh, that's pretty cool. He's a big chunk. I could be, setting the boat out there and fishing back this way. I would have the sun right in my face on this particular bank anyhow. But I should have fish out where my fly is. Just as many fish out there as what I'm seeing. There he is. Oh, I got a couple following with the rainbow. stocker size. About 11, 12 inches. It's a male. A male. Milking all over the place. Cat, you better leave my fly line alone. I hate to say it, but my cat has cost me 2 fly lines already, and maybe 3. All you got to do is bite down one time, and jeez, expensive cat. A little bigger fish. Pretty.